Hi Sonia, hi everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. Today, as you can see, we have master perfumer Sonia Constant behind so many of our favorite fragrances. Mine personally, numerous, but Ombre Leather, Le Beau, Pure Musk, Musk Noir, La Belle, which you guys have heard me talk about a lot on this channel. And really, I am just so honored to be with you here today. I have admired you for such a long time and so many of your creations, and now with Ella, which also has some beautiful fragrances, including the Leather Trilogy, which I recently smelled while at the Givaudan Perfumery School, and they are beautiful, you guys. So definitely we're going to talk about those a little bit more near the end of this video. But first, Sonia, I wanted to ask you, what fragrances are you wearing right now and loving?
I'm always wearing the fragrance I'm currently working on.
Okay.
So we are going to launch 2 new fragrances at Ella. So it's one of the 2. Actually, I wear the 2 depending on my mood, because the 2 new launch are 2 fragrances with a very different mood. One is more very seductive and the other one is much more spiritual. So it depends from my mood, if I'm more in seduction or more intellectual and spiritual mood. And so yeah, the future one, it's always fragrance I'm working on. Sometimes I also wear the previous one, but generally I like to wear the one I'm creating right now, because I like to have what people think about. So it's always nice to have comments about the current work.
And now that you do have your own fragrance line where you can translate, you know, all your visions into perfume, do you find that you don't wear so much of anyone else's creations, because now you can just create whatever you want for yourself?
Yeah, exactly. I'm always wearing the creation I've done myself. Of course, I love to discover new fragrance from other perfumers, but it's really a great luck to have the possibility to create your own perfume. Yes. Finally. So of course I did it for my clients, and that was really great. But when you create for your clients, you also have to create in the DNA of your client. If it's designer, you have to fit the DNA of the designer. So having my own line is an opportunity for me to really create what is deeper inside me, my emotion. It's more spiritual, it's more myself that I put in my fragrance. So yes, it's a true luxury.
For someone that wants to start a niche brand and be their own perfumer, how long does it actually take, you think, before you're actually creating something worthwhile?
Yeah, actually, I think I always have in mind to have my own niche brand, because when I start perfumery, I love to go to Serge Lutens, to Annick Goutal, to create, because at that time, 20 years ago, there was the only niche fragrance which exists today. Nowadays there is so many niche brands that have emerging, but I love luxury fragrance. I love luxury ingredients. I always want to use the best ingredients. I don't like compromise, so for me, having my own brand is for me the opportunity to work with only the best ingredients, because I don't put a price in when I create. It's me who puts the price, so I always put the best of course. Yes. And also the liberty, the freedom is something really key for an artist. I think it was very important for me to prove myself as a perfumer. This is the reason why I didn't want to start right away, just after the perfumery school, because I wanted to be sure I was a good perfumer. So I wait to have some prize and recognition from the perfumery world. So I authorized myself to create my own brand as soon as I have enough recognition from the perfumery
you wanted to make sure you were at that level where you were really putting out what was in your heart and having that technical experience.
Because I'm not super self-confident person. When I was a young girl, I was ballet dancer, and I work a lot, and I wanted to become a ballet dancer, and I was good, but I was not the best one. And so it's for the self-confidence is when I started perfumery, I was wondering if I would be good enough, you know. So
as someone in the school, I completely understand.
You always question yourself. Yes, absolutely. I love it. Yes, I'm working a lot. Yes, I'm doing my best. But at the end, I am a good perfumer. You know, this is a question.
Obviously,
as soon as you sign for of course, for great designers, and you
design win all those prizes.
Exactly. The prize, and also to have 8 fragrances in the top 20. Because today it's 8 perfumes, so no, I can say it's okay.
And I have to say, something that I really like about your fragrances is how different they are. Like when you put out Pure Musk, it was really like the musk I had been dreaming in my head. And what I loved is that it's so pretty, but it has character and signature. And I feel that with a lot of your fragrances. Tangent, but yes. What has been the most challenging thing for you technically? Because you work on very interesting things. You have a musk that can be delicate but then has performance. When you're coming up with these more technical accords, or like the date accord in your new leather fragrance, what has been the struggles with the technicalities, or what accords have you struggled in creating?
I think it's maybe coming from my ballet dancer childhood. You know, when you're a ballet dancer, it's very difficult to have the arabesque, but you keep smiling, and you nobody knows the technicity behind the difficulty. And the way I construct fragrance, I think what you say is completely right about the musk. It's delicate, but it have lots of trail and it's strong and light in the same way, and same for ombre leather. Many persons say leather is difficult, sometimes it's too strong, and ombre leather is very easy to wear because it's very soft. And this is something I have in myself. Is people say, I don't know in English, maybe you will translate, I say it in French, but to be une main de fer dans un gant de velours.
No.
Like iron hand in a velvet tissue.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'm strong inside, but very. I have this ambiguity.
I see what you're saying. You have the power, you have the performance, you have the iron hand, and then you have all the prettiness.
Exactly. And this is something which is in my fragrance, I guess.
I absolutely agree. I think that's a really beautiful way of describing your fragrances. For Ella K, when you're creating, and you know, this is a brand that's very inspired by your voyages and your travels, and I have to say, like, I'm embarrassed almost to say that a lot of the locales I had never heard of before Ella K. They're really exotic and interesting locations. Now, when you want to create these fragrances, do you have the completed fragrance already in your mind, or did it reveal itself to you in your travels, or does it reveal itself to you as you're working on the accord, or a bit of all three?
The construction of the fragrance is going little by little, like you go step by step. So the starting point is really a suspended moment during the travel. So whatever it is in India or Vietnam or Africa, but this is a moment where when I have emotion, it's a moment which have no space, no time, because when you are on holiday, you forgot your agenda, the time, what time it is, and this give me creativity, because my brain is free of everything you have to do in a day, in a normal day, and I'm a very synesthete person. So what I love when I'm traveling is I discover new things, new landscape, a new culture, new colors, new smell, of course, that I trap with the Givaudan technology, the soundtrack technology, and this mix all together. It's really like in les poèmes de Baudelaire, you know, in Les Fleurs du Mal, Baudelaire poetry, when he says that the sound, the color, and sound, color, and form response to each other. This is exactly what the way I'm creating fragrance. I can hear the sound of the gibbon in Thailand, in the south of Thailand, in Khao Sok National Park, and this gives me an idea of woods like a cypress and a vetiver, which give a rhythm. And but it can be also in Brume de Khao Sok. This is the mist that is going straight away, and then you have a bed of spider lily and gardenia, and this is atmosphere. Even the humidity of the dryness, if it's the dryness of Africa, for example, I will translate it into fragrance. And so when you smell the Elaka fragrance, you really feel the place, because I really translate all the senses.
Yes.
And yeah, and so it starts from a suspended moment. So I always travel with my Moleskine booklet, my Leica camera, to immortalize the place. And I can draw also little things, and it starts to construct like a puzzle. You know, it's like little things, little pieces that add to each other, and then you have the first accord, and then starts the more technical part, of course, from this accord to create a fragrance. And so it's a longer process, I would say, because you need to have the trail, you have the long lasting on the skin, so all the technicity that request a good fragrance. So this can take 2 years, 1 year, sometimes it's 6 months. It really depends of the fragrance.
Is there a fragrance in the collection that took longer than the others, where it's like you think of it like, wow, that one took a long time?
Some, like Mémoire de Daisenin, took me 10 years, but also because I started this fragrance. I was even at the perfumery school, because it's about a travel I did in Japan, in the Carré Sansuy. You know, it's in Kyoto. There is a garden with rock garden, which each garden tells a story, and it's about a rose and minerals and musk. And this I start the accord just after the perfumery school, and then it took me years to make it finished.
Wow.
But maybe also it was because I was a junior perfumer at that time, so it took me longer. Today it's shorter, the time to create a fragrance. What I have in my mind and what I can create is much more immediate, because of course
this is very reassuring.
Yeah, after years, you know everything. No, you don't never know everything, but you know how it's combined, you know which quantity you have to put to give this effect. So of course, after 22 years of practice, it takes less time to create a fragrance.
Yeah.
So, but it's always exciting.
And I know that Elake has multiple meanings behind its name, but one of the people that inspired the name is Ella Maillard.
Yeah.
And I've watched some interviews with her, and you quote her, and one of the quotes you mentioned is related how travel teaches you about yourself. And I'm curious what Elake has taught you about yourself as a perfumer.
Exactly. Yes, because in Elake there is the idea of the travel, of course, out of the border, but there is a double sense, because it's also a way to travel to yourself, a kind of introspection, and to understand who you are. Because Ella Maillard, at the end of her life, said, finally I was traveling all my life, but it was, she just discovered it at the end of her life, that it was to find herself. And there is this in Elaka. This is why there is really fragrance which translate landscape out of the border of different countries, but there is also some fragrance which are completely introspective fragrance, such like Mémoire de Daisenin, which is a completely introspective fragrance. And so yes, it took to me to just to be myself and not to please anybody.
Yeah.
It's because I think when you're a girl, your parents always try to make you smile and do the things and be the good girl, you know. And I have this education as well, because this is what I received, and I have to fight to I don't care if people I don't want to please anymore. If I want just to be me, and if it pleases, that's great, and if not, it doesn't matter.
Well, because outside of niche perfumery, you're always having to please someone, the client, your mentor, something. There's always, it doesn't help with the people pleasing, because it's some way always creating for someone else as opposed to yourself.
And when you create for clients, you also have to fit, of course, the team you are working with, your clients, of course, but also the consumer. Generally, there is consumer test, not in all brands, and the brand like Narciso Rodriguez and Tom Ford I love because there is no consumer test, and so it's you are much more freedom, and there is really the self-confidence from the designer behind. But you have to fit in the majority. It's fragrance which are created to fit the most people. When I create for Elaka, I don't care about selling the
I love that. I don't know, I just really love that.
I just want to create the fragrance that please me, what I have in mind, and I don't care about all the other things. So it gives me a complete freedom, and that's what I like.
Well, that's amazing. For me, okay, I have to say the new leather trilogy, the Casmine, has maybe pushed out Lettre de Pushkar, but before that, Lettre de Pushkar was my absolute favorite of the LK series, and it's the bestseller. And I'm curious if you saw that coming. Like, do you know, with all your experience, or is it still a surprise?
For me, it was a surprise, but in my teams, one person said it's going to be the bestseller, and so it was right. But me, I didn't know. To be honest, I didn't know, and it's very difficult for me to choose which one. Every time people ask me which one is your favorite, but it's really like if I have to choose between my two kids, who is my favorite? If it's Sandro or Leonard, how can I answer? But with the perfume, it's exactly the same. I love them all, and also because they are all a part of myself, a part of my life, at a very precise moment of my life. It tells something. So I cannot choose, but in general, I always prefer the last one, the future one, the one I'm working on, because it's a kind of love relationship. When you are inside, there is a passionate things. You try to do you construct like a love relationship with your perfume, because when you smell it, you wear it, is it good enough?
Okay, so maybe now we can smell some of the leather trilogy together?
Yeah, sure. So we start with Camshin. So with this trilogy, we wanted to work around the wind. Why the wind? Because the wind starts from one point and arrives to another point. So for me, the winds represent the travel, and the winds carry the odor in its path. And so each wind tells a different story. We look at the wind in the Arabian Peninsula, because men give different names for the different wind, because in the history they was very afraid about winds. So this is the reason why they give a name. But actually the name is more about the place where the wind is blowing. So for example, the Camshin, it's more in Egypt, and it's about an oasis in Siwa. And in Siwa, there is a very special place called Adrerea Melal, and it's a place, I love this place because everything is organic, there is no light, no electricity, everything is made only by sand from the desert and salt, and they make the bed, the table, and everything with the sun, and in the evening it's only candles, and in the bed they put some bouilloire, some to make your bed very warm. So this place was amazing, and in the morning they give you a jam made with the date of Siwa. So the inspiration is this date that you can smell, so it gives a sweet notes, and there is also the orange flower, and the leather from the care, from all the market which flourish around this north of Africa. So it's really this combination between the date, the orange flower, and leather.
I love how easy it is to smell that. You get the date you get the leather, it's straightforward, and there's such a beautiful juxtaposition between the two. And I really like when I can smell the things from the note list, and I really get that here, and that always makes me happy. And I think it's really nice for people, you know, when you can't, because niche is still hard to find and access, and a lot of people blind buy, so it's so beautifully done, and it's also very true to the smells. It's really, really nice. Thank you.
And it's a leather which is quite easy to wear. So the Ghibli is a very hot and violent wind. You can smell, you see how it's hot, and I wanted to give the color of the sun with the honey color. So you have this honey smell. Also, I wanted to work on the texture of the sun. So I work with roasted ground almond and pistachio. So you imagine with the honey. And this very addictive accord I mixed with leather, but a very supple leather.
Yes.
It's a leather which, for me, when you look at the desert from far, you can imagine the sensuous shape of the female form. So here I wanted to create a very soft leather with the idea of the sensuous shape of the feminine form.
You really get this piece of like very soft leather, like just dripping in honey.
Exactly. And the jasmine, sambac jasmine. So it's a bit more feminine, this one, a bit more sweet, very addictive. So there is the reminiscence of the nougat, because with the honey, the pistachio, and the almond, we have a nougat feeling.
This I feel like is a main character fragrance. Like this fragrance, when you wear it, I feel like you know that you are the star in your own movie. There's so much character here. I agree, it veers. A man could wear this, but it does veer slightly feminine, and it's very femme fatale. I really love it.
Thank you. This is the one I was wearing before the new. That was my fragrance for a while. Last year, that I was wearing every day. Every evening, I would say.
Right now, La Belle is my main character fragrance. Whenever I have I'm going on a date with my boyfriend, or I have a big event, I love La Belle. It makes me feel just like very powerful and beautiful at the same time, with the pear and the vanilla. It's gorgeous. Okay, now Harmattan.
This is Harmattan. So Harmattan is very fresh. So it's a wind which is blowing in North Africa, and it's a wind which blows in winter. Sorry. So this wind can be both warm and cold. So here I work on the contrast. This is why I play with the geranium leaves to give the freshness. And for the warmness, I play with both the cedar wood and the leather. So here this is really about the contrast. It's more aromatic, it's more an aromatic leather. With some fougere tones. It's very fresh and intense at the same time. You have the leather which is coming from the back.
And this I feel like is super unisex, because actually I feel like this would be really sexy on a guy.
Yeah, it's a bit, for me it's a bit more masculine, but women wear, we don't have all the fragrance in Elaka are gender fluid. I think the gender fragrance is a bit an old concept.
Yes.
We have since the beginning of Elaka in the gender fluidity.
And I feel like women are a little bit more willing to put on a guy's cologne than men are to put on a women's perfume, and that's why I like to specify, like, okay, this is slightly masculine leaning for those guys that are still too afraid to try something new. This definitely has that aromatic part. But for girls that like unisex fragrances, like me, I mean, I love the freshness because the aromatic part is really fresh and nice, and then the leather under it, it's very unique. I really like that.
I wanted to have this duality with the freshness and the leather, because generally the leather are very intense fragrance. Here I wanted to create a fresh leather.
Exactly. And it's a leather, I think, that works day to night, because a lot of times people are looking for, you know, not everyone wants a fragrance collection, and I think this is great because you have the leather part that's sexy enough to wear on a date or to dinner, but then you have the freshness. It's still very refined, very elegant, still works in an office setting.
Exactly, completely right.
Super nice.
So when you have the three, you have the leather in the three. So this is why we call it a trilogy. But it's three interpretation, three
very different fragrances. Exactly. Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, Armatan would be my pick for the guys. Absolutely. This would be so incredible. It could be a signature. It works year round because of that hot and cold, which is really nice. It's a leather, but you could wear it in the summer because of the freshness. Casmine, I think, is one of the most special fragrances I've smelled in a long time.
Yeah.
And Ghibli, I think, has just the character. They're really incredible fragrances. Sonia, thank you so much for coming on my channel today. It has been such an incredible honor and pleasure speaking with you. And yes, I can't wait to see what else LK comes out with, and also, you know, the other fragrances that you do. I'm such a big fan. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone.
Bye.